want to pray for us?
Yeah. Oh Lord, it is by the joy of our hearts that we are here today with you. I pray that every day we would not be distant from you, but that our hearts would daily be renewed and that we would constantly return to you. Each heart that is here is just such a blessing to my life, Father, and I know that it is the same for those here. I do pray that we would lean in to what your Spirit is revealing to us in this time and hour. I do ask that you would be near to us and that we would learn to draw near to you. I thank you. Amen.
Amen. Well, we either have the advantage of having a lot of stuff fresh on our minds or the disadvantage of having sat all day. So, you choose, I guess. There were two revelations that Haniel had at the end of that chapter that stood out to me more than a lot has so far. The first being the realization of his own life as a room was very interesting to me. And I guess this is kind of a part of that realization, the second thing. But also seeing that this house was not a place. This was interesting to me. It kind of conflicted with how I originally thought about it. But this house was not a place to remain in, as much as it was something to. And almost in the way he put it, it was like something to turn or transform him into something that others could dwell in. So maybe I should have mentioned those points in a different order, or maybe they are just the same point, but. It's in a manner of speaking, the house that he's been describing thus far is not a place to linger. It's very much something to pass through, to journey through, even in the same sense of him being called up to a higher place at the end of every chapter. It's just interesting to me.
I really liked the mirror.
Yeah, yes, the generational impact that his life has for sure.
I had even just in general, I think I had a similar feeling recently, just with our grandparents. I think it was actually a conversation I was able to have with Tim, and it was something I was feeling for, or I had felt, but I guess hearing someone I consider much wiser than myself basically say what I had already kind of been feeling in my heart really encouraged me, which is that Grandma and Grandpa are not separate from what we are doing here at all. And in fact, the way that they lived their life and the way that they raised our parents was just as much a part of this as everything else is. And it is constantly on my heart that they can be more involved, and perhaps even, some certain conflicts that have come up in the past can be resolved. But I was just so encouraged to hear Tim say that they are part, in a sense, of that mirror. This was way before we had read any of this Father's House stuff, but in a way that all of us are connected to the same work, and that that really was I guess just an encouragement to me, because I've always really felt that way, especially just with Grandpa, as I guess just as much as a good influence as he was on me as a child, even though I probably don't express that to him as much as I should. And I don't know, whenever I feel the distance that we sometimes have with them, I can sometimes, I guess, just feel a little sad about that, because it's just so unfortunate. But I really am, I'm just touched to be reminded of that again, because it makes that earthly separation feel much more distant, because I think that we are connected with them to something much greater, even if neither of us really see the full scope of that. And I think that for me is a great encouragement.
Thinking a little bit about the generations, I guess. I met last week and was pretty encouraged just by his heart, I don't know, in the season, because he was very wanting me to consider what it means to better come alongside him in the older generation, I guess, in our midst, and just kind of what that looks like. And I was thinking about it before our meeting as well, just something that had been on my heart and that I like to try to keep an open heart about, because I want to be more involved with their lives and get to know them, in the way that the Lord would have for each season. But and he posed it as more of, or less of just like for me to consider, but more for our generation to be considering those things, about just how the Lord is wanting to reveal new structures and new ways to continue to walk, I think there's a lot of insight in our perspectives, even though, they still need to be put under the right authority and in the right placement of, how we bring those things up. We're not going to decide how things will change or how we get to walk alongside others in different ways, but we can be considering that with a soberness, I guess. And so I've been thinking about it, and even wanting to kind of bring it up to each one of you guys as something to just be asking the Lord about in the season of how to, how to seek the Lord better on what He's revealing in us. Maybe some things that we see in our times together that, maybe don't feel full yet, and if there is any insight along those lines. But Tim's heart was very much just kind of asking me to be honest with myself and honest with him about where our times are, and not wanting to, almost ready to receive criticism in a way, which was not new to me, but like it revealed kind of a posture of heart that he carried that was honorable, I think, and very honorable to me, for sure, to be able to have that kind of placement in his life even. But anyways, he expressed to me kind of the fact that that is something that is open to the younger generation to bring to him, and that he's actually looking for very actively, especially right now in the season. You know, I think there was a vision given not too long ago. I can't remember who it was, but somebody had seen that we were coming up with new like fitments or structures or something. I think it was Nicole, and we had brought it to where there would be a time where we would even need to remind the older generation about certain things and certain truths, I guess, that can be, that maybe wasn't passed to that generation. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some new things that the Lord has brought up in us that are in our generation specifically for a purpose. But so I've just been thinking about that and trying to seek the Lord in that. But I really do think that He is speaking to us in our hearts individually for sure, and that there is a lot of work. And I know that we want to always be obedient and want to, you know, participate fully in times like Tuesdays and beyond, but just, I don't know, considering the season, and I felt like the Lord was pretty direct even through that time with me about the way that I view those things and just my relationship to the older generation and wanting to be a support and one who continues to not take lightly, obviously, the things that the Lord has called us to be and the ways that He has showed us, you know, those insights that He gives us are not just for us, but for one another and for our people. So even if we don't think about it, it is, you know, that's why it's good to reconsider a little bit and keep thinking about, you know, bringing it up to one another and being a little bit more open about just kind of what's in our hearts and minds. Not saying that those things are all from the Lord, but yeah, just be open.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
That is something my dad has brought up on numerous occasions, namely almost the expectancy that he has for there to be things that our generation will receive from the Lord that will be maybe initially difficult for the older or the preceding generation to I want to be careful with my choice of words here, because to say difficult to accept would mean that there's some kind of there's something out of tune with their own hearts and minds, which that's not at all what I want to communicate, but it would be more so simply the way God has designed certain things to be revealed to His people, which actually require, as my dad has put it many times, it actually requires a stepping out of the way of the preceding generation, so our parents' generation, so that they also can be brought to that place, that same place that we are, though it is only by first allowing us to do so. And again, this would be and is something God designed to be that way. It's not necessarily because of a shortcoming on any generation's part, as much as the manner in which he unveils His own wisdom and makes Himself makes Himself known in a new way. So I'm even reminded of that scripture Justin mentioned in his class earlier, where he said, no eye has seen, and no ear has heard, and no heart has conceived what God has in store for those who love Him. And I genuinely and increasingly believe that what is going to be made known through our generation is actually a very drastic thing. Maybe in such a way that certain things that we thought we knew and that we knew in a certain way seem challenged, but the things, the belief itself, it's not necessarily our belief or our faith that is challenged. It's the conceptions that we formed from and inspired by certain things that the Lord has shown us that will be challenged. And God always challenges those things. Whenever there is the receiving of inspiration and revelation from the Lord, as if you could metaphorically describe it as being in that super hot furnace, formless place, and it's taken away, then it solidifies into some conception. That's simply the way that the mind of man works. You can't actually escape that. But you are always able to return to that place of pure spirit, if you will, living as, communicating as, and fellowshipping with the Lord as a spiritual being, which is kind of the return to that furnace, if you will, where our ideas of what should or shouldn't be really tend to be broken down to not merely dismissed as irrelevant. It's not as much that, it's more so kind of cracking the nut open to reveal the essence of what we have always claimed to believe. That's what the Lord always brings us back to. It's kind of a pattern that I know every one of you can observe in your life. It's usually through those really dark and trial-like seasons of the soul, where you're brought kind of to the end of yourself. Those are those moments where the Lord always shows you how you were thinking before and how He now wants you to think and live from then on. That's just a personal, individual way you can see that the Lord allows that power to play out in you all the time. And so this is not a new subject to us. We know that, and this is kind of what we talked about. I remember last time we met about how, that was that silly example I used, it being like an operating system in a computer.
Yeah.
So it's that update. It's not necessarily the things.
Software before the firmware.
Yeah, there certainly were things before that didn't work well, but maybe most of the things did work well for the season that you had at that time. But when the update arrives, or when the new revelation of the Lord is given, then those good things only become a challenge to the better things. And so there's a lot that you have to leave behind in that. And you never will be able to do that if you are religiously focused on the things, the rights and wrongs of the situation, and you have no knowledge of God's heart. And the most intimate and pure knowledge of God's heart is being in that furnace place. It always should be centered on the knowledge of a person, of the person. So, I guess this is kind of an extension of what you were saying, Benji, as far as your encouragement to us to be willing to I guess you were saying just feel, each of us should feel more free to offer what is on our minds and hearts to one another, in light of some of what you've been discussing with my dad, similar subject. And yeah, that's always been the hope of this time, is that this is something we're able to do Because yeah, we can do that. We can do that at any point, even in settings that tend to be casual. But this time is set aside particularly for us to expect and anticipate to do that, and prepare to do that even.
Thinking even in context of our community as well, just kind of thinking more that way as well, that we aren't very far away from being able to be used by God, to initiate certain things or whatever it may look like. But yeah, certainly here as well. I just know that at least from your dad's part, he's expecting that kind of, those hearts, to be brought to him that have, revelation from the Lord on how to continue to move on as a people. May seem insignificant, but we can consider at least.
Mm-hmm. One way that I've been reflecting on it, like the attitude that I've had when I've reflected on this, and it's been more of like a personal thing, has been kind of like I feel like I'm in a, I don't actually use this word very much, so I might be using it incorrectly, but it's kind of like it feels like a bit of a limbo, like a state in which you don't really have a very clear and sure sense of direction moving forward, and with some purpose. Like one of the more significant things that have happened for me lately is someone felt the unction from the Lord to have certain people pray for me, and during that time of prayer, one of the things that stood out most was that there was kind of a call to enter into the order of Melchizedek in operating in that, in the midst of God's people. And that was just, like, even during that meeting, I was like, so what does that actually look like? I mean, does that mean that I try to initiate things more with people and try to start more meetings and try to have be more intentional about meaningful conversations that I have with people that I know the Lord's doing something in and with? Like, I'm willing to move forward in the practical steps. But the encouragement I received during that time was that before you do those sorts of things, you have to be fellowshipping and dwelling in a place that enables those sorts of engagements at all. And that just kind of leads to the same question for me, honestly, which is, well, how do I practically go about doing that? Because I've been to certain places, I've had certain experiences, but like I have very much been able to credit that to other people that have been in my life that more or less have led or thrust me into that place. And of course, I know this is the case for me, as it is the case for many of you, but Emmanuel was that kind of person for me. And I know he was in many ways commissioned by God to facilitate that in the spiritual lives of pretty much everyone in the community. And so when you don't have a person like that anymore, then at least we're able to quickly acknowledge that obviously the Lord wants this done in a new way. But that's part of what we're trying to figure out, is it not? How do we how do we move forward when we don't have that kind of engine, more or less, that Emmanuel was? And I know another thing we've observed following that is it's not obviously going to look the same. It's not going to feel the same. And so trying to prolong the life of certain experiences and feelings, spiritual or otherwise, because I know I'm demeaning it a little bit when I describe it as a feeling, but it's still all very much experience. To try to prolong those things and expect them and then deny certain things as not right when they don't feel as they have before is not going to work. It's just going to keep us in a place that's stuck. But all the same, it's very new territory. So when I've reflected on this in my own life, it's just kind of been like I don't feel like we're, or I make it very personal because it's like something I journal about. Like I'm expecting something drastic to happen is the way I've often put it. Like something has to change in me. Something's bound to change. Like the way I described it a couple of nights ago is it's as if I feel, or I'm feeling out this fault line in my soul more and more. I'm recognizing the magnitude of it. And you guys know what a fault line is, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically something that indicates an earthquake or a place where a major earthquake would take place. So like I'm just kind of waiting for that earthquake to happen in my life so that everything that can be shaken is shaken, and only that which cannot be shaken remains in me. I understand that to be something that happens in the soul of every person before it ever happens in the world. It happens first in God's people, to be more specific. But what I wanted to get to is maybe that way of thinking is not entirely, but partly missing the point of what even, say, someone like my dad is expecting from us. Maybe it's not just this grand, oh, finally, it's happening, the earthquake's here. Everybody throw up their hands and, I don't know, whatever the drastic idea we have of like rapid, grand change and transformation looks like. I think it's meant to be more of a matter of like seeing it as part of a very long journey that we're on. This is not to discredit the encouragement we receive from the scriptures often of like this attitude, especially in the New Testament, Revelation and otherwise. Like this like there's something impending. There's always something like right behind the door. Like that's kind of this feeling that we're constantly in. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Like many meetings that we've had, many admonishments that we've received is always this. It's always this. It always conjures this sense of an unimpending. I don't want to say doom necessarily, as if it's like this terrible thing, but it's like there's something very near at hand. So it's at least encouraging like a keen awareness and alertness. Like you don't have, like it's this feeling of you have very little time. That's how it often is communicated. What I mean to say is not anything against that, but I think we only feel that way about it because our perception of time and self skews it that way. Does that make any sense? If we're seeing things from the spirit is a present reality sort of way, and if we adopt anything that is close to a truly eternal perspective, then we're able to do what Jesus told us to do from the very beginning when he said, "Don't worry about tomorrow." He literally said that. Don't worry about tomorrow. So no, the encouragement is not whenever we felt those sorts of things, like it's an impending doom, whatever it is. It's not obviously an encouragement to do the opposite of what Jesus said. It's meant to lead us to a different kind of alertness. It's meant to I think we should always interpret it as it's not tomorrow, it's today. It's not a few minutes from now, it's right now. It's always right now. That's the kind of sensitivity, alertness, and even trepidation, if you will, that's meant to be encouraged, is it's right now. And I think when that is realized, then the urgency that we experience is not an urgency that is projected on the future. It's one projected in the present. And so, I would say what that can inspire, and maybe even should inspire, is a settlement. It should eventually lead to a settlement among us. Not that feeling of disturbance. Yeah, there are obviously things that should be and are disturbed in us through conviction and whatever else the Spirit reveals that needs to be revealed and dealt with. But even that's something that's not like a matter of take care of it as soon as you can because you may or may not die tomorrow or whatever that false sense of urgency we have, or the world ends tomorrow or whatever it is. That's the distracted, future-oriented mind that can't work with a spiritual mind. And so, what the sentiment that I was trying to arrive at, I've been meandering a little bit, is the change that we desire to see in this community. I don't believe it's going to be like one of those really intense meetings that we've had on a worship night where everybody's, moved by the Spirit and crying and things like that. That's not, again, to discredit those sorts of experiences at all. But that's not how I picture the change that the Lord is bringing about in this community, or even how I picture the initiation of that change at all. It's going to look like us being able to, in a consistent and in a steady and mature way, learn how to do spiritual life together on a day-by-day basis. Like, grow as adults together. I'm maybe using language that's too simple, but I guess simple is better than complicated.
Much better.
Yeah. Anyways, it's you know how people will almost condescendingly say, like, you need to grow up? I was told that many times by Emmanuel, and in kind of like a rebuke sort of way. But that's kind of where I'm feeling we are entering, or that's where I feel we're entering a little bit as a group of young people, we need to grow up a little bit in the way we do life, but particularly in the way we do life together. And that's going to be the change that takes place. So yeah, there's a lot that is involved with growing up. So what do you guys think that even looks like?
It's always going to start from within.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think a lot of that's already happening too, individually. So it's just learning how to be yielded to bring it to one another and learn how to, you know, maybe not like forcibly make things happen to try to converge past or whatever, but just being or wanting and desiring that life together, you know, even though we're
Mm-hmm.
separate in ways and all have our different things that we do, but
Yep.
it is happening for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to make things happen, I feel like it's more letting it happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But letting it happen is still something you do if you think about it, which is, it's meant to further your point, not contradict it at all. Because when we think let it happen, not like the song per se, but I don't even know the lyrics. It's not just do your own thing, it's going to happen anyways. It's more so there's something that has to be released and yielded in yourself for it to be able to happen. Do you see the difference there?
Yeah.
It's a pretty important difference. Because the mode we're in usually is one that interprets that as it's going to happen whether I have anything to do with it or not. Actually, there is something that still depends on you. The letting it is still an action. It's still something. It's still its own kind of effort.
So it's like, how are you gonna let it happen?
Uh-huh. Yep. How do you make room for something? Like anything at all. How do you make room for a person in your life? How do you make room for a feeling in your life? How do you make room for something you want to grow in or become better at in your life? Like I'm asking you. It's not a rhetorical question.
I think as Tim was saying earlier, you can't teach anybody that thinks they know what they're talking about. That's the
Yep.
hardest thing is, you know, you build yourself out of your virtues and what you believe about the world. You do have to, they're as temporary as you are. If you are a living, changing thing and you are going to grow, you have to be willing to go, can I live without this? Could I step away from this?
Mm-hmm.
That's vital.
Yeah. I mean, one of the first things that comes to my mind is like how much time do you give something or somebody?
I don't know. I think I cheat. I don't think about it that far. I kind of just tell myself, as long as they need,
Mm-hmm.
because they'll be done with this time eventually, or they won't be able to handle it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's simpler than it actually is. I don't know. What do I want to say? You guys are doing good. When I say that, I mean that in the most literal, simple way. You are doing good. When you got, I think, addressing doubts, future or past, if you've had them or you've not, or maybe you will eventually. Some of you have thought about, or at least have thought of, you were born into this life of life of families of believers, or you came from a religious household, and you walk in, and you know, you're all past puberty now, you're at the point, you've stepped away, you've had to do your own stuff. You're starting to wonder if you would have done this, if you weren't born into this. If you were given the chance at a different life, would you have tended this way? I can't relate to that in the slightest because I was that.
Mm-hmm.
The most holy thing I've ever experienced was morphine. There's nothing magical about what has happened to me. My father raised me and Carter both independently, black sheep of the family. We don't have nothing to do with them. And I see now, you might have had a good idea about that because now they're over there slashing each other out of their inheritances and
Oh wow.
willing to take each other out to not say too much.
Mm-hmm.
But like what you guys have offered me is literally incredible, unbelievable. I had never understood what family was or anything like that. When I first started working at the cafe and seeing you guys and stuff, you know, I was deadpan silent. I walked quietly. I made sure you guys did not notice me. I was terrified of Cheryl and Ben and their children. I was mortified because I was like, this is what family was. I've seen this before, like window shopping. I've never been allowed to have this. And that's entirely how I understood it. It was like, I'm grown up now. Those shoes don't fit anymore. And I can't ever make them fit again. You guys have taught me so much more than that. I've been able to experience things that I had completely chalked off of my own will as completely impossible. You guys are doing good. You're doing incredible things. So whether you doubt this, that, or spiritual, or even if you're not down at all and you're going with the flow right now, you can believe you are incredible people. I don't know how else to phrase it.
Thank you, Corbin.
Thank you.
Just the more we, or at least I won't speak for anyone else, but the more I get to know you, the more encouraged I am by your life and just your heart, to put it frankly. I think what has been most incredible, to use the same word as you, about you has been the very thing that we were trying to answer moments ago, which is what you have learned to let happen in your life and see how that has changed you. Not just change the way that you interact with us.
No, it is.
It's not just the outer things, but, and I can't even claim to see the full extent of your inner man, because there's a lot there that is still beyond me. But what little I have seen is that's what has been the most encouraging thing, to see change in you. And it makes me want to be a more observant person, because I know that if I had and will put more effort into seeing the true nature of an individual, like I've been more and more been able to do with you, thanks to your openness, the more I'm able to see the miraculous work of God's hand in a person's life and be able to participate in it more willingly and effectively. Honestly, I can't say there's, and again, I'm just speaking for myself here, but I feel like any way that I may have influenced you as an individual has been completely outside of any effort or beyond any effort that I've intentionally made.
No, that's why it's all worked. It's all been genuine.
Yeah, and that kind of, I want you to continue, but that reminded me of a little bit of what Jaden brought up earlier in this meeting about our grandparents, is I just have this suspicion that the greatest impacts that even they have had on other people's lives have kind of been almost
Accidental.
well,
Or
yeah, like kind of beyond
us.
their original intentions.
Yeah.
Like not against them, but like it's had a greater impact than I think they've even anticipated or maybe are even currently aware of, is what I mean to say. And that's just how it tends to be in life when it comes to influencing other people. And this ties into today's reading with the Father's house, is that the way in which God uses you for another life, or maybe even a completely different generation or people, it comes as a surprise when God reveals to you how that change was actually wrought through you. It's not in the really great impactful moments you thought you were having in the moment. It's through those things that you almost forgot about most of the time. And that's like a really cool and also really kind of scary thing at the same time. Because it's when you're not realizing that you're impacting the other person, for good or for bad, that you are most powerfully doing so.
Yeah, that's when you are the most influential in someone else's life, when you kind of don't realize you're being monitored or judged.
Yeah.
Both those words sound cruel, but no, not in the slightest. You are a good example. I think, as well as like talking of doubt again, there's also the need of like, oh yeah, I need self-improvement. Something's going to change. I need to be ready for it, or I need to allow myself. At the end of the day, none of you are picking up chain smoking. None of you have hopped on antidepressants. You're doing great.
Mm.
At the end of the day, you might not need change. You might just need distance. You might just need, and time might be that distance. You might need to sit in what you've created, whether that's good or bad. You'll find what's bad in there real quick. You know, if you lay down, if the whole mattress is nice and you lay down on the one nail, you're gonna tell. Something's going to stand out to you. And you can judge whether or not, can I work on this right now? Or does doing that, will I fall apart? You guys all have each other. None of what you guys do would be even remotely possible with each other. That was part of what took me so long for you to understand about you guys. Because I did everything independently. So it just didn't check out. I was like, how can you guys function on the slightest? Because you have each other.
Mm.
Justin was like very truthful when he was like, what you guys have, when everyone coming together, this is very special.
Yeah.
Incredibly. I've literally seen it nowhere else. I've seen nothing even remotely similar to this. That's what makes it like, that's why I don't have doubts about believing in any of this. Because I'm along for the ride. I'm here for the whole trip. I showed up. I wasn't born into anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to being quiet for like another month or two now.
Well, don't do that. You just said you were along for the ride.
Oh, that took years.
That's crazy how, I mean, yeah, certainly we were born, or some of us were born into certain things, or came along later than others, but
I'm just saying.
it's just, it is, I was just gonna say, it's crazy how one thing leads to another. I mean, it's a really simple thing to say, but
Born
like-
or led to this road does not invalidate it. I chose it entirely, painfully of my own volition.
mhm.
This was the only right thing to do. When I had to go and talk to Tim, and I was like, yeah, I'll finally talk to Tim. And after a 4-hour conversation later, I was in like physical agony, writhing in that chair, until I just needed to sit down. When I got up that morning, like I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. It was, when you talk about like feeling like something's coming or I need to be ready for it,
Uh-huh.
I was there. And whether I wanted to or not, it was just happening to me. Where Tim's also being very careful. I think he understands I'm paranoid of power and of anyone with positions of influence. He was very careful to be like, I'm not trying to coerce you, Corbin, or anything like this or that. But I was like, at the same time, I was like, no, I'm in like too much pain. This is literally the only way out. Like, it is all mental, and I needed to accept. I needed to believe what I knew. I needed to give up the ghost of whatever I was doing before, which meant surrendering a lot of the independence. I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, I appreciate what you shared.
A lot of it has to do with willingness. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen in you is a willingness, both to let go and to learn what it means to take up a new life. And that's where I felt like I've been brought to a lot of different places, was willingness. You know, where you go through different seasons and cycles of life even, but it comes down to a willingness that he's able to work with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Everything takes time or distance,
Mhm.
and time is distance.
little something to share. Just, I guess I'll just say it.
Mhm.
Next week, I will be going to Tacoma for a doctor's appointment, and it's nothing huge. I'm not worried about it, but you know, I don't really like going to the doctors because of how many times I've had to go and how many times I've kind of been left with no answers.
Mhm.
And just to go so far away from home and kind of facing being told like we don't know what's wrong with you again is kind of worrying to me. And I'm not worried about what, you know, is gonna happen there, but I just appreciate, I guess, prayers just, I guess, more for the journey there. And it sounds really weird, but I feel like it definitely is something spiritual and the mental realm more than the physical pain of, you know, my issues. But it was something I wasn't gonna bring up because I didn't think it was like a big deal to share, but I don't want to stay in the habit of doing things alone and kind of just not like coming to the people who I know would care and, you know, be there for me if I asked them to.
Yeah, I'm glad you found the strength to say that.
Appreciate you bringing that up, Kayla. Yeah. Could we have at least one or two people pray for you
Yeah.
while we're here? Esther, would you mind doing that?
Father, I'm so thankful for Kayla and for her heart to be open and to come to those who she trusts. Lord, she knows that she is in your hands. I pray that she would feel your presence always. And that you would reveal yourself to her in a deeper way. I thank you that she trusts you and just desires to be your son and to know you. I pray that you would bless her heart and be with her on the trip to the doctors. And I just thank you so much for her life. Amen.
Yeah, I think part of the growing up thing involves knowing how to treat each other as true friends. Because like just thinking about that word friend even, it's kind of something we denote to youth and being a child, those sorts of things, or like a contrast to like you're just a friend, not this closer or not this further thing for me. So like it's like this degree of relationship, but really not anything more than that. And yeah, it is a degree of relationship, but what does this particular degree entail? And we don't even just have to use the word friend, but I think sometimes it can carry maybe a more relatable meaning than saying, as it's really easy to do, like being a brother or sister in the Christian context. in which those words are usually used. Those are perfectly fine words to use. I'm not saying they're not, but like, what are the signs or the what is the evidence of a true friend? Because that's part of what we want to have here with one another. I think the one time, and I don't know why they use this word in the translation in particular, but the one time I remember, or I can recall right now at least, Jesus using the word friend is when he spoke of what true love is, actually. When he said, no greater love has any man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. I think that's how it is in the NIV, or maybe it's the King James, I don't know. Yeah, it might be King James. But it's kind of a way of learning to give one another preference over ourselves. So obviously there are many ways you learn to do that, because there are many things you do with and ways you communicate with another person. But if the standard is giving preference to one another, how will that change the way that we currently relate to each other, do you think?
What are you asking?
I guess I'm asking a lot at once, so maybe that's why.
I don't know how to change in that regard. But I think that's some of not being willing to learn, actually, where I'm thinking, I'm doing pretty good right now. But no, I can always...
Actually,
self-improvement is a trap. I can always do better, but don't try to do that, because that's individualistic. You're not actually going to help anyone else. You're going to be focusing on you.
I agree, Corbin. I think you're in a good spot for that. I think that personally, I'm reminded actually of the poem you shared earlier today. Love needs to be unconditional. And I feel, I'm going to say we, but when I say we, I'm really meaning me. Love can very often feel conditional. And we treat people certain ways, either based on our own familiarity with them, or because this is how we usually interact with this person, or because we hold a certain judgment towards that person. And we don't think that that person is capable of interacting in a certain way with you. And I have recently realized that those conditions we make for ourselves, I can't act this way around this person because they're my biological brother or sister. I can't act this way around this person because we've never done it like that. I can't act this way around this person because that's not what they want to do with me. Thinking those ways in our own hearts, I've found actually creates those conditions as reality.
Yeah, it's self-fulfilling.
And that it doesn't exist outside of as much you created. I personally felt really convicted like that, just for a couple people that I noticed in my own heart I was treating conditionally. And I have been in constant prayer for myself, and even especially just for those people, because I yearn not only for a healing of a relationship there, but for a relationship there to begin in the right way. And so I want to speak to myself, to each of you. There are some of you who I don't struggle with, and there are some who I do. And I truly do want that relationship with each of you. And I don't want any history or any judgment on my part to interfere with that. And I sincerely, and again with no judgment on my part, because I'm speaking for myself here, but I encourage anybody else, if you feel that way towards anyone here, you don't have to publicly admit it, but seriously examine in your heart if you're creating that reality with that person. Because I think that truly for me is what I noticed, and I don't want that to happen anymore. And I can now say fully that I really do love each and every one of you. And I am thankful for all of you in my life. Each of you, even if you think, oh, he doesn't mean me. I do. Each of you has made a profound impact on me. And I frequently pray for each of you. And so, thank you all for being here. And I sincerely hope that together we can all come into this new way of relating with one another. Because I do see each of us, I know we have relationships where we can feel we can be that way. Oh, I just really click with that person. I think that that doesn't have to be just with that person. I think we can be that way with each other, and most importantly, collectively. I think our being held back during these times is because of those loose strings. And so I just wanted to share that, and I hope that if anybody feels that in their own heart, that you would look there. And again, not as a judgment, but as a genuine desire, because I'd love to see that reality come about.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, dude.
Yeah, me and Carter spent the first 13 years knowing each other just beating each other to a pulp. So it took a really long time to get where we were. And yeah, no, I agree 100%, where it's like, you guys have the opposite problem I do, where you've known each other for so long. You have as Jay was saying, you have an idea of the other person and how you can act around them. You can refresh that. It's not a throw it out the window, let's start from scratch. It's a let's be fresh about this. That can go a very long way. I don't know how good of an example it is, but I know when talking with Carter, I get mad if he ever calls me, I'm talking, he's on the phone or something, I'm talking with my big brother. It's like, I'm not your big brother, I'm your brother. I don't stand above you in the slightest. That's the kind of feeling I ended up taking into it. It's like, listen, I have a different understanding from family than you guys, but you're all family to me now. I'm terrified when Carter gets in here. That's gonna be horrible. Carter is a lovely person. I can say without a shadow of a doubt, he would take a bullet for any of you without knowing your name. He's a goober. And I can barely stand it. But he is a lovable person to, I think, everyone but me. So I know him just a little too well. But once again, I had to start fresh with him. And I couldn't always do it through words. A lot of it is through actions.
I think a lot of it's you're gonna find is not even through actions you're intending to do.
Exactly.
I would say just
I had to decide to be a better person, and whether Carter realizes it or not, he is reflecting that as well, which is good for both of us.
$5:55, or at least it was a couple seconds ago. Isaac, do you want to bring yours?
Yeah.
Lord, thank you for what you have brought forward today. Lord, what you have put on the hearts and minds of this generation. Lord, let us continue to draw from you as our source, and our only source for what holds us all together. Lord, reveal the relationships and the things that knit us together that are not of you. Lord, let us see those and deal with them. Lord, I bring the older generation before you. Lord, teach us how to come alongside them. Lord, I ask for your wisdom in that. Lord, I look forward to your work in every person in this room. In every word and action and way that you use them that they'll never know. But you know, Lord. Amen.
Amen.